So I want to talk about this fake Cheesecake Factory date that everyone has been outraged about for the last week or so. And I want to put Black women on game, if you already didn't know, about these internet trolls that are trying to sabotage Black women. Then I want to talk a little bit about Black women sharing their dating standards online. So let's first talk about the skit. So a little over a week ago, a TikTok video of actress Nakia Lowry, who was going by the name Alicia, she and a male actor, I'm not sure of his name yet, but I'm sure it will be revealed soon. But they did a skit of them in the car pretending to be on a date. And in the skit, Nakia pulls out her phone and starts recording them. And she's telling the audience that he's trying to take her to dinner at the Cheesecake Factory and how she's not going to get out of the car because she is just too beautiful to go on a date at the Cheesecake Factory. And her character was purposely made to be very entitled, very arrogant, and snooty. And so in the skit, the guy is very nonchalant about her recording. And he seemed way too okay with it, which is the first thing that made me question if it was a skit when I first saw it. Outside of the acting, especially when she said, "Oh no, he didn't," it just sounded real fake to me. But in the skit, he says he was going to take her to a nicer restaurant, but she was an hour late and left him outside waiting. And so she asked him to take her to the restaurant they were going to go to originally, and he says no. And the skit ends with him saying he felt disrespected and that they were incompatible and that he was just going to drop her off at home. She tries to get him to compromise, but he doesn't budge. So that was the skit. Now let's get into some receipts that prove that this was fake. And shout out to my longtime subscriber, Red Elephant 169, for sending me all of these screenshots. And I did go on Nakia's page myself to verify that she is indeed an actress. And I took some additional screenshots of my own. So this is Nakia's Facebook page. As you can see, she is the woman in the skit. In her bio, it says she's a therapist, an author, and an actress. Here are some screenshots of her posting about a recent audition and a role that she landed. So I'm guessing that the people who knew about the skit going viral reached out to her to offer her more work. Here is another screenshot of her smirking and joking about heading to get cheesecake. And this was posted when the skit started to go viral. Here she is in the comments admitting that she was the woman in the skit. One of her commenters says, "So it was a skit. Why did you have us talking bad about you like that?" And she says, "It's okay. No one in this group has the power to offend me, nor should I have the power to offend any of you. We don't know each other. And yes, it's a skit. I'm a therapist, podcaster, writer, and actress, LOL." Now, some people may say, "Oh, well, she's saying it's a skit now to save face." And I definitely don't think that's the case because these skits are becoming a very popular way for influencers and aspiring entertainers to get clout. So I definitely believe that this is a skit. To see my exclusive content, visit Chrissy VIP at ChrissyOnline.com and be sure to join the mailing list for updates on future videos. The links are in the description box. Please like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching. So the next screenshots are from a few Facebook groups that Nakia is a part of. One is a femininity and luxury group for Black women on Facebook. My subscriber who sent me the screenshots is a member, and that's how she was able to see this information. And so in this one, Nakia says, "It's a skit. Every video was filmed on the same day. There's a whole behind the scenes being put together as well. It will be revealed further, but you all do realize that the more this is shared, the more money it makes. People don't use critical thinking skills. Social media is a powerful tool in so many ways." And in this other screenshot, she mentions more about her plans to discuss the skit on her podcast and the reactions to it. So she is absolutely doing this for money and clout. And she's taking advantage of the fact that people don't have critical thinking skills. And she's using it to grow her online presence and her brand. This is clearly someone who is desperate for social media popularity and getting work as an actress. So she is going to try to get it by any means necessary, even if that means embarrassing herself and intentionally damaging the image of Black women. And so this is a response to a member in the luxury group. She says, "Even if it is a skit, the entitled behavior has started to peak. There is a difference between your communicated standards versus your non-communicated expectations of someone else. Please don't intertwine luxury/femininity with belittling, disgraceful, and rude behavior." She lacked accountability and demonstrated morals/behaviors that are unfortunately aligned with the narrative of Black women. So Nakia responds and she says, "Yes, and this behavior I see in these luxury groups. It's a conversation among others that I believe needs to be had. You are absolutely correct. None of this demonstrates luxury or femininity. It needs to be called out, but it's so exhausting. So I thought, let me hold a mirror to folks and see how ridiculous this mindset can look. And when it comes to this skit, I saw this a lot. I saw a lot of people saying, oh, well, even if it is a skit, women are becoming too entitled and this is happening in real life. So we need to have this conversation. And like my subscriber Red Elephant said in our email exchange, if so many Black women are actually doing this in real life, why does a skit need to be made? Where is the real footage? We actually saw more Black women scolding this woman for refusing a first date to the Cheesecake Factory than Black women agreeing with her. And the stats show that Black women are dating, marrying, and having kids with broke men. So clearly, most Black women don't have an issue with going on dates to the Cheesecake Factory. A lot of us accept way less than that on the first date. This is a non-issue in real life. Maybe a couple Black women here and there would think like this, but most Black women don't. And that is why y'all really need to start side-eyeing these dumb TikTok videos. At this point, you need to just assume that videos like this are skits until proven otherwise, because this is the latest hustle on social media. And I suspect that other TikTok video that went viral of the woman slurping down those oysters, I suspect that was a skit too. This is just what Black women are doing now. And to me, it's just all tied back to their low self-esteem. And I know somebody's going to say, oh, well, the sprinkle advice on TikTok and Black women talking about hypergamy online is what gave everybody a reason to believe that these skits are true. And I would almost give y'all that if that particular advice didn't also get a lot of backlash from Black women. Again, we see way more videos of Black women critiquing sprinkle and pointing out the holes in the advice than women who are actually showing themselves on dates and attempting to use the information. So again, this is really just a non-issue. And for those few Black women who do it, I do think that Black women especially should stop announcing their dating standards online. I've said that for years. But I do think the main reason so many of y'all believe these skits, it's not because there are hordes of Black women who are actually doing stuff like this. But I do think it's because of your internalized misogyny, and specifically misogynoir. Y'all just don't like Black women. That's what it boils down to. And I'll continue to show the screenshots throughout the video as I give my commentary, because I do have a lot to say and I don't want to keep reading out the screenshots and making the video unnecessarily long. But ladies, I want you to really understand what this is and what's happening here and what Black women like Nakia are doing. What this woman is doing is what all the manosphere niggas do. She's trying to humble and embarrass Black women that she feels are asking for more than what they are worthy of. She's clearly very familiar with the level up conversations, the sprinkle conversations. So I do think this was her way of poking at that. And I also think she purposely paired herself with a non-Black actor to pose as her date to paint Black women who swirl in a negative light. So that's something else I noticed. A lot of this was just to get attention from Black men. And she made herself the butt of the joke to drive the point home because she actually feels unworthy of nice things as a Black woman. And she wants other Black women to feel the same way. Again, she's trying to humble Black women. And the way she did it, I'm telling y'all, this is one of the biggest displays of projection, low self-esteem, and honestly, masochism that I've seen from Black women in a while. You really have to hate yourself to do a skit like this. Watch it go viral. Watch yourself and other Black women get dragged to hell and back for it. Then go the extra mile to make people think it's real. Acting or not, this Black woman's self-esteem is in the trash, and she seems to be completely oblivious to it. And I'm sure she's going to come out and make it seem like she did something so great and revolutionary for Black women and Black people when she announces that this was a skit, as if trying to humble Black women and embarrass Black women is anything new. But she's going to try to make it seem like there was such a deep message in it and she just had to do this to make her point, like she really moved the needle on something when she really just did more damage to the Black woman's image and piled onto some very harmful stereotypes about Black women. And I'm not a conspiracy girly, but it's looking like a whole operation at this point. And honestly, I'm side-eyeing everybody, including the woman on TikTok who shared the video. I think she was paid. I also think the guy who recently interviewed her is in on the skit. I believe he's a part of the manosphere. And if he's not, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Nakia does more interviews with the manosphere or red pill men after she reveals that this is a skit, or just does more interviews with male podcasters in general. And y'all got to think about how desperate this is. You got a black woman and men of the manosphere who are actually creating and or going along with skits to sabotage any efforts made by black women to level up and practice hypergamy. That is how much they don't want you raising your standards, ladies. Both genders are on a mission to keep black women in our perceived place at the bottom. And if they aren't intentionally trying to sabotage black women, they're doing this for their own personal gain, and they don't care about how this impacts the image of black women. The actresses, the influencers don't care. They just want money. They want visibility. And we know everybody delights in trying to humble black women. So whether the story is true or not, they're going to run with it and use it as an opportunity to drag black women. And again, it's both genders. And speaking of that, ladies, even if this skit was real, or if a black woman does this in the future and it's not a skit, I want to caution black women against attacking the black woman's looks and or criticizing her for her standards. Because this happens almost every single time. Right before the Cheesecake Factory skit, a black woman on TikTok went viral for saying she doesn't accept coffee dates on the first date. And just like the Cheesecake lady, black women dragged her all over the internet. It wasn't as bad because it didn't go as viral, but she did get a lot of backlash. And with Nakia, y'all immediately attacked her looks. And in my opinion, as black women, we shouldn't be jumping to tell other black women how they're not attractive enough for nice restaurants or trying to convince them not to accept coffee dates. All you're doing is adding on to the narrative that black women in general don't deserve nice things. And even if you think you look better than the black woman in question, or your standards aren't the same as hers, and maybe you like coffee dates or the Cheesecake Factory, just take the attitude that black men take when other men announce their preferences. Just say, oh, well, that's her preference. She's allowed to have that. Because black women's response to the skit, it reinforces the belief that everyday black women have to be perfect or look perfect to get a steak dinner at an upscale restaurant, when that's just not true. And don't get me wrong, I don't like what Nakia did. I got beef with her for doing this stupid ass skit, trust me. But seeing other black women saying she's not pretty enough or well dressed enough for a steak dinner is just super cringy, because it's showing that you don't have a lot of experience going to upscale places. Look, I've been to expensive restaurants in both big cities and small cities, and every single time there's been a fair share of regular looking women, exceptionally attractive women, cheaply dressed women in their little ill-fitted Fashion Nova dresses and Zara dresses, and there's also been women in designer clothing from head to toe. And the men there, whether they are married or not, all of them don't have supermodel looking women on their arms. Every couple is not dressed up. Some are actually dressed very casually or business casual, depending on the dress code. And if you think all high value men have exceptionally attractive women or super thin women, you clearly haven't been around them enough. Now, I am not saying that most high value men prefer conventionally unattractive women or morbidly obese women. Let's not twist my words, but you can even use celebrity high value men as an example. All of their wives are not exceptionally beautiful. Now, do I think it's important for women to be realistic when dating and be realistic about their physical attractiveness or what men they're more likely to attract based on their weight or appearance? Of course. Do I think a feminine, pleasant attitude goes a long way? Absolutely. I've said all of these things many times on my channel, but I say it primarily so that women can use the information to their advantage. I don't do it to try to humble other women and make myself feel better than them. And that is what I saw y'all doing with Nakia when it came to this skit. A lot of y'all talking, you're on the same level as Nakia. Let's just be real. And you wouldn't want a man telling you that you're only good enough for a Cheesecake Factory date. You wouldn't want that. In fact, you would be outraged if a man went viral for saying that to a woman. But that's the response you gave Nakia. It just doesn't make sense. Now, I'm not going to act like there aren't class differences and appearance differences between women that may give certain women a leg up over another woman, but y'all just be exaggerating like it's impossible for average looking women to get wined and dined when we see the evidence of that not being true every day. And the woman on TikTok who said she didn't do coffee dates, she said that after she respectfully declined a man trying to take her on a coffee date, she found two men after that were willing to take her to the nice places that she wanted to go. So ladies, women who serial date and don't operate with a scarcity mindset, they know what's out there and they know what they can get, and they generally get what they want. And they know you don't have to be a supermodel. You don't. And yeah, you will get further with high value men if you don't show yourself slurping down 48 oysters on TikTok. even though, again, I don't think it was real. But my point here is that having a scarcity mindset and being a coffee date Cheesecake Factory pick-me is why some of y'all end up taking care of Dusties. This is why y'all be crying on the internet all the time about your baby daddy, because you're letting the world know that you're easy and you're low maintenance and you're making it like it's a badge of honor. It's just so cringy. And don't get me wrong, ladies, I do like some Cheesecake Factory food. Okay, I like the egg roll appetizers and of course some of the cheesecake, but I don't prefer that on a first date either. And I'm not about to be yelling at another black woman for not accepting that for a first date. That's just not the hill I'm going to choose to die on. You know what I'm saying? And the lady on TikTok who says she doesn't do coffee dates, in the end, she still got what she wanted, no matter what the internet had to say about it. And this is why I tell ladies all the time, go out there, get some experience, because you will find that a lot of what people are saying online, especially in the manosphere, it's bullshit and it does not apply to you. Remember, ladies, you don't need a million men to think you're worthy for a nice dinner. You only need a few. And these people online trying to tell you that it's impossible, it's either dusty men who are trying to get you to settle for men like them, or it's women who have dusties as partners, either it's their baby daddy or their husband, or it's single women trying to sabotage you so they can have more high earning men to choose from. It's usually one of those things that I just listed. Oh, and as far as the white women, because I see the white women under the videos as well, trying to imply that these black women who announce their standards aren't worthy enough for what they're asking for. I saw them talking about how they love the Cheesecake Factory. We definitely see white women at the Cheesecake Factory, okay? So we know they like the Cheesecake Factory. However, many of them probably didn't or wouldn't accept Cheesecake Factory as a first date either. Because I saw one lady under there and she was like, yeah, me and my husband and my kids, we love the Cheesecake Factory. And I'm like, okay, where did your husband take you on your first date? That's what I want to know. And sure, there are many non-black women who have low standards. But look, ladies, they are some of the most hypergamous women on the planet. And this is not my opinion, but the stats show this, okay? So a lot of them actually would not accept Cheesecake Factory as a first date. They do feel they are worthy of more than that. A lot of them just don't feel that way about black women. And ladies, you need to understand game when you see it. A lot of them feel superior to black women and think that only they are allowed to have high standards. And look, we can take race out of it. Again, some of them are just competing with you because that's just how women are. But ladies, and I'm specifically talking to black women here, y'all are doing black women a huge disservice when you publicly attack other black women for their standards and preferences. It's no different from when y'all attack other black women for dating non-black men. And this reminds me of the TikTok that went viral not too long ago of the black man who didn't want to pay $1,000 for an engagement ring. And he was being compared to a white man who paid $30,000 for his fiance's engagement ring. It was one of those street interviews on TikTok. And I saw a lot of black women especially calling the black man cheap. And y'all were complaining about how black women are always expected to settle for less. But you don't realize how a lot of y'all as black women also reinforce that same belief when you scold other black women for having higher standards. I think the average price for an engagement ring is like $7,000 or $8,000, something like that. So you got black men out here telling black women that we are not worth the average price of an engagement ring. And you also have black women telling other black women that we're not worth more than the Cheesecake Factory on a first date. Do you see the problem here? And do you see how a lot of y'all are doing the very same thing that the men do? And perhaps some of the backlash to black women or women in general announcing their high standards also comes from the economy being bad and the fact that most men are average or below average financially and can't afford expensive dates. So a lot of you are defending your men who are in that category. But again, men don't do that with other men. I'll give you an example. If one man says he wants a woman that's a 10, meaning that she's exceptionally attractive, she's a dime piece. He's not going to shame that man because his baby mama is a 5. He's going to say that man is allowed to have his preference and his standards. And ladies, this is just an area where I think we need to take a page out of the book of men. I think it would benefit us to do that because when men share their preferences and standards that they have for women and they share it online, other men really don't say too much about it. Women, of course, will complain, but the men almost always side with the man, no matter how entitled, rude, ugly ugly or arrogant he is. And I always hear people say that men are less entitled and less delusional about where they rank in terms of attractiveness, and they're more aware of what type of woman they qualify for. But I don't agree with that. I mean, that's what the whole red pill is basically. It's a bunch of disgruntled men that are mad they don't have the access to the women they want, or mad because some women want higher value men, or they're mad because some of the average or below average looking women are no longer interested in being pumped and dumped and used by them until they find someone better. So again, they're trying to humble those women. And again, a lot of women have low standards, so many of them do have access to women, but it's not usually the women that they want, and they're complaining about it online. More or less, that's what the manosphere is. And the biggest difference between men and women is that men tend to get violent when they don't get the women they want, which is why they're doing studies on incels and writing articles about the rise of incels, because they know they have the propensity to become violent towards women and towards society in general when they are broke or average earners and don't have access to the women they want to sleep with or women they think they deserve. So to say that men aren't as entitled as women, that is false. And when a man publicly shares the type of women they like, other men don't usually tear down the looks of that man. They don't tell them they're not rich enough to attract a certain woman. I don't see a lot of men attempting to humble other men in this area. I know Kevin Samuel sometimes would tell men that they weren't attractive enough or didn't have enough money to attract certain women. But notice how that content didn't blow up like it did when he started doing it to women, to black women specifically. And he also didn't do it as much with men because men in general just don't respond to that. They don't like that kind of content. But women do, and we will gladly join in with the men to try to humble other women. And please don't try to bring up the exceptions or minority of men who scold other men for their dating preferences. The point is, it's not a critical mass like it is with women. With men, it's always a critical mass defending a man's right to have a preference. I hope you get what I'm saying here. Now, with all of that being said, ladies, I know things won't change overnight. I know that women are going to keep responding this way to other women. I know that men are going to keep responding to women this way when they announce their standards online. So I think it's best to move in silence and just stop announcing your dating standards. I have come to learn the hard way over the years that people just respond negatively to women with high standards, and especially black women with high standards. And it really doesn't matter how she acts, because the woman who said she doesn't do coffee dates, she wasn't arrogant at all. And she still got a negative response. It also doesn't matter how pretty the woman is, because they'll criticize exceptionally attractive women as well who announce their standards. They'll just attack something other than her looks, or they'll say that she's not all that. We've all seen men trying to humble exceptionally attractive women as well. And I know somebody's going to say, oh, well, it's not fair that we have to move in silence. Men announce their preferences in women all the time. And you're right, they do. And it's not fair. Life is not fair. But we will always be attacked by everyone when we have higher expectations. And I honestly think it's going to take at least a generation of black women or more that practice hypergamy for people to get used to us having standards. Because unfortunately, we just have a bad track record in that area. And keep in mind that even though I think black women get attacked the most, it's not just black women that get critiqued when they announce their dating standards. It's non-black women too. I've seen people react negatively to white women who have platforms that explicitly tell women to only date provider men. I do think those women get more support from other women, but they do get attacked. So I just think the best thing that we can do as women in general is just show our dating standards in what we do, what we tolerate, our boundaries, and not through our words and what we say, at least not to the public. And I do think it's great that so many black women especially are waking up and deciding to stop dealing with dusties, but there's really no need to share your standards online now that you know the information. Now, I'm not saying that putting your face and identity out there talking about hypergamy will always repel provider men, because it is a good chance that they won't even be online to see it, or they may be too old to care. That is a possibility. But I just don't believe in taking that chance and possibly ruining your chances and your reputation. If anyone talking about leveling up is not telling you to guard your reputation with your life, they are giving out incomplete level up advice. You just can't be all over the internet with your real name and face showing, talking about how you gonna finesse a man, especially if you are still social climbing, or you're not yet secure in your position as a high value woman, or if you haven't got a high value man. Whatever your goal is, if you haven't reached that yet, it's just not wise to publicly talk about your dating strategies with your face showing and your real name, because that could impact your chances to gain access in the circles that you're attempting to access. And it could impact you even when you're not aware of it. Maybe a man wanted to take you out on a date, or someone was considering you for your dream job, TikTok and then they saw your videos on TikTok and changed their mind. Things like that do happen and they can happen and you won't even be aware of it. And of course you could say, oh, well, that means it wasn't in God's plan and what's meant for me is meant for me. And yeah, you can look at it that way. But why create obstacles for yourself that you don't have to create? That's how I look at it. Take the path of least resistance. That works the best for most people. The exceptions do not make the rule. Make it as easy as possible for yourselves, ladies. And please, for the love of God, stop doing these ridiculous skits for internet clout because it's getting out of hand and you're doing nothing but embarrassing yourselves and the collective of Black women. Please find another way to get attention. So that is all I wanted to say about this. Let me know what you think down in the comment section and I'll catch up with you in the next video.